Our investigation into TriMet continues tonight with a closer look at how open the transit agency is to the riders.
Well, Kelly, critics would put it this way. Is your voice being heard at TriMet? To begin to answer that question, our investigation takes us back to June of last year. June 2012, as riders protested, TriMet's board of directors approved raising fares and cutting service to help balance TriMet's budget. But they did something else without public input. They approved more than $900,000 in raises, with 1/3 of that amount going to at least 50 TriMet executives, managers, and other non-union employees already making six-figure salaries. Some of the raises were substantial. Records obtained by Coin6 News show TriMet's Director of Legal Services receiving a 51% boost in pay, a Deputy General Counsel receiving a 33% raise, and a Civil Construction Manager receiving a 22% boost in salary. Where did the money come from? The raises were funded from TriMet's $20 million contingency or rainy day fund. TriMet General Manager Neil McFarland pushed for the raises.
So it looked to a lot of critics, that was a slush fund where you were just trying to get the raises.
I've admitted and I've apologized for the way that was rolled out.
Now, what made you get interested in transportation? Chris Smith sits on the board of directors for the Portland Streetcar and writes a blog called Portland Transport.
My big beef is they weren't transparent about it. I mean, that should have been fully visible to the public. It shouldn't have been something that somebody had to figure out reading the footnote 6 months later.
TriMet now says they are trying to be better about transparency. They might begin by following the examples from other transit agencies. Our investigation revealed TriMet is one of the few major transit systems in the country without a permanent citizens oversight or advisory committee.
Actually, we do have a general manager budget task force which has a number of citizens that actually meet every year.
Who appoints that? Who appoints
I do. And I confer with our board in their appointment on that.
But some might say that's not transparent enough since you've appointed them.
Well, I would say that if you knew the individuals, you would know that they're very independent-minded.
And while McFarland appoints citizens to serve on a few specific committees, there is no permanent, independent citizen advisory committee watching over TriMet itself. April 24th, 2010, a TriMet bus driver hits 5 people in a crosswalk. 2 people are killed, another seriously injured. TriMet forms a task force to investigate, and among their recommendations, TriMet should consider a community advisory committee that would allow TriMet's customers and partner stakeholders the opportunity to weigh in as TriMet makes decisions. In response, TriMet formed a safety education committee. As for the specific recommendation to form a citizen advisory committee,
why hasn't TriMet acted on that?
The roles you just described are the roles of the board of directors at TriMet that are appointed by the governor and confirmed by the state senate.
McFarland compares a citizen advisory committee to the TriMet board of directors, and many people feel that's the problem.
I serve on a number of boards, and I think the role of the board members is to ask hard questions of management. And of course, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but in board meetings, I see 1 or 2 people who do that occasionally. I don't see as much of that as I think we should have.
The governor appoints 7 volunteer members to serve on the TriMet board. They meet twice a month, but many feel the public is left out of the process.
When we first started going to TriMet board meetings, you couldn't testify, the public couldn't testify on a particular resolution or motion until after the board had already voted. We got them to change that policy.
John Oster heads up Opal, a group that advocates for TriMet riders.
Unfortunately, right now, only 1 of 7 TriMet board members are is a regular transit rider, and we need to change that. We need our TriMet board members to be much more accountable to the people.
Someone in Salem is listening. Oregon Representative Chris Gorsak sponsored a bill to have the TriMet board be appointed at a local level rather than by the governor.
And when you consider the huge impact that TriMet has on people's lives and the millions of dollars that go into the operation, it seems to me they should be a little closer to the voters. The voters should have a little more say in how the board functions.
Last week, the bill had its first hearing, and among those testifying against it, TriMet General Manager Neil McFarland, who defended his agency, saying, despite what you may have heard, TriMet is still one of the nation's premier transit agencies. And McFarland says for TriMet to maintain its reputation, it must bring the mounting cost of its employee union health care under control.
Changing the appointment of the board isn't going to fix that, isn't going to make the money magically appear.
There's really a question of credibility. I mean, we have TriMet making a number of assertions about the budget and how labor costs drive that. We have the union making contradictory assertions. I think it's tough for citizens to know who to believe.
I would sort of ask the question, what's broken at TriMet?
Finally, our series of reports has stirred a lot of reaction, as it should, and much of it comes from TriMet itself. KOIN stands by its reporting, and in doing so, we'll even address some of TriMet's concerns right now. Here is the documents given to us by TriMet with the names and salaries of 70 non-union employees making $100,000 or more. Once again, these documents given to us by TriMet. But TriMet says we should keep our comparison to 49 employees paid from the general fund. The rest are working on the Milwaukee Light Rail project. Once again, we made it clear to TriMet. We were comparing total employees. Denver Transit, which we compared, had a total of 51 six-figure salaries. That included Denver employees working on not one but several light rail projects. TriMet says its $100 monthly pass should have not been compared to cheaper passes in other cities. Those cheaper passes limit riders to certain zones. Now, Denver Transit is 4 times the service area of TriMet. That $79 Denver Metro Pass actually covers close to the same area as TriMet's entire system. Finally, TriMet takes issue with the assertion that General Manager Neil McFarland gave himself a raise. It's true, he can't give himself a raise, so we will clarify that. But he did recommend a raise, and the TriMet board approved it. And finally, the next TriMet board meeting is Wednesday, May 22nd at 9 a.m. at the Portland building. And the public is welcome. Once again, we stand by our reporting. We've posted both stories on KOIN.com, and as always, we welcome your comments.